All right, Notre Dame fans, we're here to talk about and break into Tobias Merriweather's decision tonight. He's about to make an invitation or about to make a decision. We are going to connect to his show right now, so get ready for that. And when we do this, please make sure that you let me know right away if you can hear it or not. But we're going to join his Instagram feed right now. And that's him having it sideways, not me. So obviously Tobias Merriweather is a big-time player. We graded him out at Irish Breakdown as the number 40, or excuse me, and I graded him as Irish Breakdown as a top 50 player. SI All-American ranks him as the number 46th player in the entire country. SI, or 247 Sports, ranks him number 75. This is a big-time player. He's going to decide between Notre Dame, USC, Oregon, Tennessee, and Stanford. He visited Notre Dame and Stanford officially this spring. Now, obviously, Notre Dame has considered his leader for some time. As I've said for a while, I felt that if he committed this summer, it would be very good for Notre Dame. So we'll find out if I was right or not here, hopefully coming up very shortly. But this is a big-time receiver. As soon as he makes his announcement, we'll have it. We'll break it down. Vince and I will talk about it. We're going to have John Garcia from SI All-American in here to talk about it. So we're going to have a lot of conversation about it. So once he decides and makes his announcement, we're going to then dive into our analysis. But hopefully we'll have that decision coming up very, very soon. But I think the fact that his only two official visits were Notre Dame and Stanford should tell you about what kind of kid Tobias is.
Yeah, definitely narrows it down to what kind of he's looking for. I mean, right. Yeah, it's not hard to tell. That's for sure.
So this is, and of course, he's waiting on CBS Sports to get their situation going. So, which we can't carry their feed and be monetized. So we're gonna carry it this way.
Yeah, and you can just tilt your head. It's no big deal.
Little right hand pinky in a. Well, if you're watching on a phone or an iPad, it's no big deal. You just turn it. You're all good.
That's true. That's true.
I can't turn my computer monitor.
Yeah, right. I mean, you can turn it, but it ain't going to do anything.
The schools I offer the most in terms of sports and academics, and the schools that I think that I could thrive in.
So he's answering CBS Sports questions right now.
I think for that, I just didn't really want to make it a big deal. I just wanted to keep it low key, and so I didn't have any outside pressure or anything. Just trying to keep it for me, at least, just keep the pressure off. And I know it's the best decision for me and not for anybody else. So I didn't really care about social media posting my top 5 or top 3 or whatever. That's just for me to know, and not anybody else really. I mean, right now I'm just focusing on becoming a better athlete right now, and just more elevating my game. I do a lot of things well right now, but I know to get where I want to go, I have to improve in everything that I do. So that's really all it is. I mean, we've seen a lot from me. I think a lot of good stuff, but it's always better, and I'm never satisfied. My right is my dad, and my left is my mom.
Be nice if we hear the questions. I think I knew what that last one was. Oh, you got there,
right? Yeah. Who's behind you?
Okay.
So this is going to be if he picks Notre Dame, we're feeling good about it. But if he does do it, this will be a big one for Notre Dame. D-Rock. A lot of people are feeling that way, my man.
Well, hold on. If we're putting some stuff up here, I've got to put this one on.
The Mace K, yep. That poor woman. She's going to come strapped the next time my man Mace AK shows up.
Good. Hey, SI All-American jumping in. Do you see that, Brian?
Yep. There we go. There we go. Yeah, obviously SI All-American ranks him higher than those came out today. We'll have something on that tomorrow, but he's ranked higher by SI All-American than anybody else. Number 46. 247 Sports is next with him at number 75. It's a big-time player. Right, pinky and a little splint there. So apparently someone wants him to go to Oregon. It's like the lamest mascot ever. You literally put a bunch of ducks in there. Like not even like cool ducks. Like ducks that – that's just the lamest thing ever. It's like my college mascot was the Seagulls. It's like there's no way you can make that intimidating at all. Like, oh no, they're going to steal your fries at the beach.
Omar says, glad I'm watching this on my phone. Kind of hard to turn the TV sideways.
Yes.
Understood, my brother. I get it.
Yes.
I get it.
Yes. I can assure you that will not be the case, especially since
you're involved.
Yeah. We are very much – we pride ourselves at SL America of ranking players who are the best guys, best players. Doesn't matter where you go, which is why you see some guys that are committed to Alabama ranked a lot lower on our rankings than you see them ranked other places. Matter of fact, there's a kid that Notre Dame has ranked in the top 100 that I actually was like, yeah, he wouldn't be in my top 100. Devin Moore is ranked in the SI 99, even though I didn't have him ranked as a top 100 player because John Garcia thinks he's a top 100 player. And not because he's going to Notre Dame, because that's what his film says to John. And I didn't argue against it because I have him as a top 150 guy. But, it's going to be about who the best players are, not where they're going.
It must be a commercial break.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well played, OC Irish fan.
Yep.
Well played.
Yep. Yep. I'll pass that note along, Ronnie. Ronnie. John, see, this is what I love about Notre Dame fans. My man John DeCrisio is on vacation right now, and he's on his phone or TV or computer or something waiting on this commitment. I absolutely love it. Yeah. Yep. Just real quick, have you heard about COVID protocols for the stadium this year? They say they prefer that vaccinations are recommended, not required. And as of right now, masks are also not required.
It's a free-for-all. That's what it is.
No, don't even see. You're going to make me respond to that, Vince. And this podcast is going to take a whole different turn. Michael says, Brian, you preached your feelings on Tobias many, many months ago as a want and must get to the Irish. That is absolutely right. That's absolutely right.
Told me to wait. Told me to wait like that.
Okay, I think this is the last commercial.
Colin, see, quote from CBS. Okay, guys, let's make this 10-minute commitment take an hour. We have to milk it out.
Dang.
I think they're watching on TV.
We watched.
Oh,
There
look
we
at that.
go.
Oh,
Let's go.
And he's laughing about it too, which is great.
And then
he
you
knew
see
he
he
was
just put it
sideways.
on there. He said commitment in 1 minute.
All right.
Nope, back to sideways. He couldn't get it to stand up.
So yeah, this is hopefully the Notre Dame defense has been dominating the summer. The offense needs to get on the board.
We
He
can
would
finally
be-
put.
He
Go
would.
ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Vince.
I was gonna say we can finally put to rest some of the can Marcus Freeman, recruit the offense and things of that
clearly
nature.
he recruited Tobias Merriweather. That's going to be the story.
Right. Right.
Finally, Marcus Freeman had time to talk to an offensive player. And KMA Preston, we haven't seen in a while. Welcome back, Preston. When does he commit again? That'll be on Sunday.
Yep. We're not sure what time yet. He hasn't said what time.
Yeah. He would, if Tobias commits to Notre Dame, he'd be Notre Dame's highest ranked recruit, according to SIL American and 247 Sports.
Williams would be.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, first off, I like to start off by thanking God for giving me this opportunity and putting me in this position to show off for Him. Secondly, I like to thank all the people that have helped me on this journey, my family, my friends, everyone here today in the auditorium for being there by my side and keeping some of the pressure off me and make me feel like a normal kid. With that being said, I'd like to announce that I'll be taking my talents to the University of Notre Dame.
There it is.
I'll clap it up for that.
There it is.
Go Irish.
Go Irish. You even dropped the Go Irish, which I love. So Tobias Merriweather is officially in the 2022 class. He is the 20th. Let's see what he has to say.
The biggest decision for me was just the coaching staff there and how we connected and clicked and we're all on the same page. But also just what they offer for me on the field and off the field. And it's a great school for football. It's a great school for academics. So I think it'll really be good for me the next 4 years, the next 40 years after that. Yeah, when I was there, it was a good experience. I've been there before when I was a freshman, so I kind of already seen the campus and got to know the coaches. But me being there again, they treated me almost like a celebrity, which was kind of fun. But I mean, at the end of the day, they just told me like kind of straight how it would be when I came and really got to know me and got to know some of the guys there. And after that, it was just we went to go visit another school, but it just didn't feel the same. So after that, I just knew it was the right choice for me. Yes, sir. I plan on majoring in psychology.
Already knows what he's going to major in. That's pretty impressive.
You don't see that a lot from
No.
He's a different kid.
You can tell academics is important. That's for sure.
Just like to say thank you for the coaches for giving me their time and having faith in me that I'll be a great player at the next level. And just for all the fans out there, just be ready to watch 5 out there on the fields on Saturdays. That's all I gotta say. Yes, sir. Thank you.
See if he's got any more questions here.
All right, thank you. Have a good one.
All right, so there it is.
There it is. Tobias Merriweather is Irish. Can I also say that I love the fact that mom and dad also had the Irish gear on, and they all showed up, when he gave his commitment, and that was clearly a family decision, which I love, and it's pretty clear what's important to him and his family, and I love that too, and the fact that he knows what he's going to major in. He is a quote unquote Notre Dame guy, and you may not have known it before, you know what I mean, and I love that, and we're going to jump into his film here in a little bit. And if anybody hasn't watched his film, let's just say if there wasn't the little highlight thing that goes over him as you're watching the film, he would stick out to you.
You'd have no problem finding which guy Tobias Merriweather.
He is elite. He is electric. He is a game changer. He's all of those things that that you want to say about a kid who's coming in on the offensive side of the ball. This huge props to the offensive staff, to Tommy Rees, to whoever was involved in this.
Look, let me say this: we're gonna break this commitment down, but this is so I've been very hard on Dell Alexander. This is one kid that Dell Alexander has been on from day one.
Yeah,
I've had some issues with Coach Alexander and whether or not they were or were not paying attention the entire time to C.J. Williams and other players. There was never a doubt that this was the number one player on their board, and so. And he stayed on them. I mean, so this, yes, was Tommy Rees involved? Yeah, but we've said a million times, the coordinators have to be involved.
Of course.
You can't just get a kid like this with just your position coach. But, for all the criticisms I've given to Coach Alexander, and they're, in my opinion, warranted and justified, this is one that he deserves praise on, because Tobias, he's been on Tobias from day one. And as he said, Tobias visited back in 2019. So he's been on Notre Dame's radar. So it's not just Coach Alexander, but then the rest of the recruiting operation, getting on him earlier, getting him on campus, all those different things all this time. But this is one where Coach Alexander did a great job. And again, there are some areas where he's going to have to continue to get better. This was a big one. Yes, this was a kid that he went after, he stayed on, and they got fortunate. Some of the schools that he wanted, Tobias really liked Oklahoma. That was kind of his dream school growing up. They filled up real quick with some highly ranked guys as well. And this allowed Notre Dame to step into the void and make it happen. So this is big for Notre Dame. We got a super chat here from Gregory Gilbert. Losing Jordan Johnson is a little less painful. Welcome to Notre Dame, Tobias. Yeah, this is a big pickup. So first and foremost, yes, Tommy Rees, great job. Brian Kelly was involved, great job. Staff did a great job. But Dell Alexander, this is actually one of those recruitments where Coach Alexander did steer this recruitment. And so he deserves a lot of praise for that. Yeah, because this is the number one guy on the board, right? Has been for a long time. He was the number one receiver in my board. He's the kind of difference maker that Notre Dame absolutely needs. So we'll dive more into what this recruitment means for Notre Dame. But what I wanted to do first was let's get into the film.
Yes,
let's share some film of Tobias Merriweather. Vince is going to kind of tell you what he likes. I'm going to tell you what I like, and we'll kind of get your thoughts on him too. So this is Tobias Merriweather. So this is him from his junior season, which was only 4 games. So all these highlights are only from, I believe, like a 4-game season. Because Washington only had look at that. Washington they did a spring season.
So this is recent. This is real recent, yeah. So obviously you can tell speed there, long strides, 6'4" body. So he's got the long legs. Obviously he's got some room to fill out, but he makes guys look slow. And he doesn't necessarily look that fast because he's got those long strides, right? But when you're looking at him compared to everybody else, he looks fast because he leaves everybody else in the dust. Look at him high point that ball. That's good stuff right there. He's 6'4". He's going to be bigger than almost any corner that he goes up against. Runs good routes. I mean,
the interesting thing, Vince, I've had people tell me they don't think he's real fast, and I think he's one of those deceptive speed guys. I think a lot of times with these 6'4" guys with really long legs, They did that. He won the district 100, 200, and 400 meter sprints.
There you go.
And by the way, he was named the male athlete of the year because he also is one of the better basketball players on his team too. This is an elite recruit. You don't see a 6'4" kid winning the 100, the 200, and the 400 on the same day.
Right.
So he is a very unique player. I think one thing you see right there, Vince, is again, I don't know if I've ever seen a high school kid that doesn't need some route refinement, but this route right here is kind of an example I'm talking about. Watch him sink his hips at the top of this route. He's an advanced route runner. Look at him working for width because this is a high-low concept. He's trying to get outside that. He works for width, sinks his hips a little bit I'd say a little bit more forward lean, but watch him kind of snap it down, bam, and then work underneath, look for the ball, find it, and then immediately split the defense. He's got an advanced feel for his age for route running, and that's not something you often see from a 6'4" guy either. Look at this throttling down in the zone right there.
And that's something that stood out to me is that he has a really, really good feel for where the open slots are in the zone.
So when you hear us talk about a guy that finds the soft spot in the zone, if he keeps running, he's going to run right into this guy over here. Right. He settles. He probably drifted a little too deep, but that's okay. But he stayed in the middle and then, looks up, ends up getting a big play. He also plays defense. He had 4 interceptions this past year in 4 games. So this kid's a really good football player. And there's some 7-on-7 film of him too. Oh, look at that. He can throw. Kid can do it all.
Too.
There's some good 7-on-7 film from him from this spring too, and he went to multiple 7-on-7 events and just dominated. Look at him tracking the deep ball well. He's got that gear. Plays with some swagger. You can see you listen to him talk. He's a very confident kid.
Well, I love that they move him around too. They play him in the slot. They play him outside. They play him to the field. They play him to the boundary.
Imagine that.
Yeah, exactly.
Just snatches. I mean, you see very, very little body catching from him on film. Very little body. Look at his hands there against the press. Just quickly getting his hands up. Not great technique, but look how quickly he gets his hands up. Beats that guy. Levels off. He has to get behind the defense, right? So he gets behind that linebacker, and then once he does that and he clears, he levels off and allows them to get underneath that, make that catch for a big gain. He's definitely got some attitude. And here's his second kick return. I think this is the second one that he took back for a touchdown.
He goes from 0 to 60 pretty quick here.
Yeah, he had 2 returns for scores this year. This would not be the second one. He had 2. Very good body control, very good balance. He's very long. Look how quickly he closes on this. Very long. He's a quarterback's dream. He's got that tremendous catch radius. No technique on defense. He's just being really athletic.
Yeah, he's just an athlete on defense. I mean, it's they're trying to throw it over the 6'4" guy. Good luck.
Yep. Very talented football player. And the thing about him too, Vince, he's really skinny. He's going to fill out a lot. He's going to add some weight on. He's it's a talented football player. Very talented football player. Look at that vision to break that back outside. I like that. Again, when I see people rank him like 188, I think is where ESPN has him. Rivals has him like 155. The new On3 Sports, and I'm thinking, I don't know what the heck you're looking at. Sometimes I can understand why people don't have a guy ranked as high, and other times I'm like, I have no idea. I have no idea.
There you go. A little physical in the blocking too. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
He's not afraid to lay the wood either.
Nope. No, he is not. And so that's a little bit of Tobias. I did want to bring up some 7-on-7 camp film as well, just to kind of have that going while we're talking, Vince. We're not going to talk through it, but we'll have that up as we're talking, just so people can kind of get a glimpse, just a little bit more of him from the summer. You get to see some of his route running and just some of the different things he brings to the table. But yeah, that's Tobias Merriweather, Vince, and I think that that shows why I'm so high on that kid. I mean, he is a very, very talented football player. Very talented football.
I want to let you speak to this. Somebody in the chat is asking about the competition that he plays against.
It's decent, but again, everybody always asks that. I don't care.
Yeah,
you're a 4-5 whether you're running against kids that stink or whether you. I've never seen a player play against worse competition in high school than Golden Tate ever, ever. I mean, it was embarrassing. How bad the competition. And Notre Dame has never recruited a receiver that played against better competition in high school than Javon McKinley. I mean, so that stuff just doesn't matter as much to me. It just doesn't. The skill is the skill, right?
Yeah, right.
And you have to be able to determine. I think where it can be challenging is some people can't evaluate as well. That's an evaluation problem, not a player problem. But
right,
we're going to share a little bit more of his 7-on-7 film here. You can see a little bit of his ball skills from these events. But look, so let's talk a little bit about Tobias. Okay, so number one, great size, right? 6'4", long arms, incredible catch radius, nice frame. Like, he's skinny now. Look at that quickness. That's some suddenness you don't see from a 6'4" guy.
Look at that right there.
Really good burst, really athletic, great body control, great balance. He's quick. Look how quick he is getting in and out. I said I'm not going to break it down, but I just can't help myself. I'm sorry.
I know, right?
Look how quick he is. I mean, he's not a choppy, big – look out. I mean, just bam. I mean, look at that. That's, I've compared him to a faster T. Higgins. We've talked a lot about receiving. You know who he reminds me a lot, and I hate saying this because the guy was so good. He reminds me a lot of Justin Jefferson from LSU. Now, I don't know if he's going to run as fast as Justin. Justin ran a low 4.4. Maybe he runs that fast. I've said he's a faster version of T. Higgins. Either one works. I mean, either one is good. Look at that explosiveness off the ball.
This is running past guys.
I mean, just blowing passes, dude. And look at
that. And then climbs the ladder to get the ball.
I mean,
yeah.
And honestly, Vince, he doesn't even really jump. He just sticks his hands out there. He's so long. So long. I mean, just snatches the ball out of the air. This is a very talented football player.
I love that.
This is the kind of boundary. He's got some swagger.
I love that.
You know my stance. I love receivers.
I love that, man.
Yes, no question. That. This is a really good football player.
Yeah,
love his size, love his speed, love his athleticism. Again, a lot of tall guys tend, and we kind of talked about this in an earlier podcast. We were talking about Randy Moss, and a lot of 6'4" guys don't have really quick feet just because they're so long. It's harder to control those feet.
Sure.
You watch Tobias. That's not a problem. That's not an issue when you're watching with Tobias. He's got great feet. Really good bounce, change of direction, really elusive, really sudden, great focus. He catches the ball, tracks the ball real well down the field. He's going to get stronger, but he's tough. Yeah. And as he gets stronger, it's going to fill out. So, I mean, this is a big-time pickup for Notre Dame. Big-time pickup for Notre Dame.
And I really like his body control as well. And putting a little bit more beef on that frame is only going to help that, right? I mean, you talk about the power forward wide receivers or whatever. Okay, so he's got the height to be that, but he puts a little bit more beef on. Then,
right. I don't view him as a power forward receiver though. Like so explain why he's a perfect example. It's not about height.
Right.
So explain that.
He's a guy that's got speed. He's got body control. He's pretty good in his route running. I don't see him as a power forward guy that's just going to jump over everybody or body somebody else. Right. I'm saying if he adds that to his game, that makes it even better. That you know what I mean? You put a little bit of girth on that frame because he is skinny. I mean, he's small, right? But he's only going to he's got a year left of high school, and then of course he comes into college. I'm saying that could add to his game even more.
Right. And the other thing too is one of the things I talk about, the power forward receivers are guys that don't do a lot after the catch. I think Tobias can do more. Yeah. And he's not going to be Randy Moss. He's not going to be a smaller. He's not going to be Devontae Smith after the catch, but he can do some things after the catch, and he can stretch the field. So this is a big time. This is a big time pickup for Notre Dame. Really big time pickup.
Yeah,
so
it's exciting. It's exciting because you're right. The momentum was on the defensive side, and we were hearing all along, can Marcus Freeman recruit the offense? Just ridiculous stuff. Which I get, fans. I get it. Right. The defense had the momentum. And now the offense is like, okay, hold my beer. Like, here we go. You know what I mean? And the offense has an opportunity here in the next couple of days. I'm not saying what's going to happen because I don't know, but like they have an opportunity to make some waves, which I think is fantastic, which I think is great. And somebody in the chat said earlier, this has the makings of being, the wide receiver class that I've been looking for. I think it was Brandon. Yeah, absolutely. So again, everybody, we just turned the calendar to August, right? They're not done. The defense isn't done either, but the offense isn't done, and they're going to make some waves, and it's exciting. And this is going to be a really, really good class, and it continues tonight with the commitment of Tobias Merriweather. This is an exciting pickup. This is the top receiver on Notre Dame's board, on Brian's board, and they got him, and that's really, really important.
Well, see. Well, Brandon said this is the receiving. What was his comment? I'd like to see
his dream class or something along those lines. It was a ways back.
So to me, Vince, when I look at this kid, I think the thing for me is Notre Dame has to start stringing together some strong receiver classes in a row. Right? It's not just about one class. You need to build them.
Sure.
They were getting there. They had the 2020 class, which had Jordan Johnson, Xavier Watts, Jay Brunell, which is a really good class. Then you kind of followed that up with Lorenzo Styles, Deion Colzie, Jane Thomas. Well, two of the guys from the 2020 class are gone. So they really put a lot more pressure on. You had to be really good in this 2022 class. This is a great way to build to that. As much as I love Lorenzo Styles, Deion Colzie, Xavier Watts, Jordan Johnson, Tobias graded out higher as a junior than any of them. Because, again, I'm going to regrade them all after their senior years, but as a junior, he graded out higher than all of them. So, I mean, that's big time. This is a gap closer for sure. No question. And
nice shirt.
And again, it's when you can follow that up after what you got last year, it's huge. And I do want to talk about that too, because you need to make sure you're getting guys that have complementary skill sets. When you have Deion Colsey and you have Tobias Merriweather, there may be some that view them as the same guy. They're not really. They can do a lot of the same things, but they have some differences. But here's the point. Neither one of them are no-brainer boundary guys. Miles Boykin was a no-brainer boundary guy. That's where Miles had to play.
Right.
I think that Tobias and Deion Colsey can both play either outside slot and can play in the slot, outside spot, and can play in the slot a little bit. So that's that versatility that I'm talking about. There needs to be some versatility of your skill sets. These Deion and Tobias both have a very similar game, but they're both able to do a lot of different things beyond what a guy like a Miles Boykin could do. And that's important to have so they can play together. It's not like, well, they got two really good boundaries now. It's no, you could put Tobias at X and Deion in the boundary and Lorenzo in the slot, or, Xavier in the slot or whatever. You can play these guys a lot more together. They're not just the same spot. And that's important because now, you went from having a bunch of big power forwards to a lot of those guys are gone. And you look forward, and it's kind of like Deion, and then everybody else is like 6'1" or smaller. Well, now you get Tobias, and now you're building that balance back up. Now, what do you do as you finish out the rest of this class? But this is the one they had to get. This is the one they had to get.
Absolutely.
This was big.
Yep. And
we've said for months that if he decided this summer, it was going to be Notre Dame. I've felt that for a long time. I wrote this story a few days ago. It's the minute that he made his announcement, made a couple calls, it's Notre Dame. So they knew they were going to get him. That's big. And I want to say this too. And here's why I said that, because as he goes into his senior year, more Bama, Oklahoma, Clemson, Ohio State, I mean, all these big time programs are going to be like, this kid's he's going to explode as a senior. I truly believe that. And that's going to make him even more impactful to this one. So go ahead, Vince.
Yeah. So one of the things that we like to do on these types of shows is we like to talk about what the recruitment was like. And I don't think we've really touched on that. So I don't know how much background you can give.
And there's not a ton of interesting background other than they identified him early and Dell got on him early and Dell stayed on him. This is what there's been a lot of things I've criticized Coach Alexander for. I don't really want to rehash those in this show because this is a show where we should be praising him. This is one of those ones there was never a period of time that any of my sources or anyone indicated that, man, they're just not on him a lot. This is one that for whatever reason, Coach Alexander looked at Tobias and was like, that's my guy. And wisely so. This is a big time player. So it just was more of a staying with it and just continue to convince him why he's a great fit for Notre Dame. And, you talk about the Notre Dame kid. He's a true Notre Dame kid in that he fits Notre Dame as a person, as a student, but also part of being a Notre Dame kid, and this is where Marcus Freeman was coming from, is he also needs to be an elite football player. That's a big piece of this too.
Yeah, no question. No question. He was a great interview too. I mean, obviously it would have been nice to hear some of the questions, but you can kind of extrapolate from the answers.
Right.
Great answers. I mean, if you're a Notre Dame fan, he said everything that you want to hear. And then watching the film, it's like, okay, that just adds to the package.
Right.
You know what I mean? This kid's the full package. I'm so excited about having this kid in the class. It is so hard when you think what's about to happen with a kid, but you can't tell anybody, and you can't, like this kid excites what right out of me. I'm pumped about this kid.
Yeah,
so much.
He's a special player, and Vince, I know you got a role. We're going to have John Garcia joining us here very soon, but
awesome.
I'm gonna go through some of these questions while we wait on John to go. But Vince, thanks for joining us tonight.
Yes, sir.
And
I will see everybody tomorrow in our normal time slot.
Yep, 1:00. 1:00. So I do want to go over some questions here about this commitment, about this recruitment, in some different areas. Dylan Riggin, I started clapping. My girl thought I was clapping at her doing the dishes. Yeah, you need to make sure you clear that one up real quickly. So SIL American, we saw this. Merriweather is now the highest ranked Irish verbal commitment ND had 5 SI-99 commitments now, tied with Ohio State for third most behind Clemson and Alabama. And there's a couple other questions that we have. We'll get to those. But before we dive too much into that, speaking of SI All-American, I wanted to bring in my man, John Garcia, who is the head honcho, the director of recruiting at SI All-American. John, I know you haven't been getting much sleep lately. You and I were on the phone until about 2:00 last night? Yeah. So, John, let's dive right in. Tobias Merriweather, SI All-American, has him ranked higher than any other recruiting service. This is also the highest ranked Notre Dame commitment now. Talk to me about Tobias. What do you see from him? Why is SI-99, SI All-American so high on this young man?
You know, Brian, from a simple perspective, it's about the juice. It's about the frame, the athletic profile, and the production. I heard you earlier talking about competition. We could care less about that. It's not the worst. Look, Derrick Henry played worse competition. I think he ended up okay. But it's about the juice that he brings to the table. 6'3", 6'4", a little on the lighter side, but that's something that we know will tangibly change probably even before he gets to Notre Dame. But I think when you put all the big factors together, the frame, the speed, the athleticism, and the polish, that's where it starts to get a little bit different in our conversation. As you know, Brian, we value the floor here at SI. We don't want projects in our rankings. It happens still, but for the most part,
some guys have ceilings that are just too high.
Correct.
And that's the conversations that we've been having the
ignore,
last couple of days, right?
Right. You can't ignore that freaky player. But when the freaky guy has polish, now it just makes your job a little bit easier. So we were on the phone late last night talking about a couple positions, mainly tight end, a couple other ones. But we were not talking about receiver or Tobias Merriweather. That was over and done with a long time ago. And I think he just validates what you want at the position at a modern age. He can run by guys. He is strong after the catch, deceptive speed. Love the long stride that he has. It looks like he's kind of in fast forward, or the other guys are maybe in slow motion. So he can pick him up and put him down as well. I like the 3-phase experience. I'm a big fan of guys who play more than one side of the ball, and he's in all 3 phases, although his secondary work is not great, but it's okay. He's still
we said he's getting by on God-given ability on defense. That's it.
Yeah. So we just honestly, the floor is just so strong with Tobias. The only real knock is, hey, maybe this kid needs to gain a little bit more weight, show a little bit more as a blocker. But those are things that naturally come when you transition from high school to college, and he's still got a year to go.
A couple things I want to ask you about with Tobias's game that I see, John, that I think make him unique also, that add to this is, number one, a lot of 6'4" receivers like him are dominant to the point of the catch, but not after, the way a Devontae Smith or Jalen Waddle is. When you find a guy like him, that I think he is. I think he is that. And I think the other thing is, you don't find a lot of 6'4" guys with long strides that are also polished route runners. And when they're that way, they're dangerous. If you need an example, go watch Justin Jefferson, right? I think he's more – I'm not saying he's going to be the number 15 or whatever overall draft pick, but I'm just comparing their game, their style of play. He reminds me he's a bit of a cross. He's got some T. Higgins to his game, and he's got some Justin Jefferson to his game. Am I nuts? Or do you see that stuff as well, John? And you can say I'm nuts. It's okay.
Well, no, I mean, the T. Higgins frame comp is about as good as we can find. I mean, that's exactly what T looked like in high school. He was dominant. He was a string bean, but he wasn't just a jump ball guy. He was running by guys. So I actually like the T. Higgins comp a lot. My first comp when I watched him was Zay Jones from a few years ago coming out of ECU. Just kind of the ease that he moves with athletically, regardless of what he wants to do, is really head turning. It's very noticeable. But yeah, he's got much more polish than both of those guys did at the same stage going into their senior years of high school. And like you said, 6'4" guys usually run the go route, play the jump ball, be big and physical. They don't ask him to do any of those things. And when they do, it's because he does it with polish. So I think that's why he's such a different type of prospect. That's why the floor is that much higher for Merriweather. Again, the only thing is really, hey, can he play a little bit lower, which is always going to be an issue for a 6'4" guy, and can he be a little bit more physical, which again is going to come with time. He's a 3-sport guy, so how much time is he dedicating to the weight room today? That number is going to go up very, very much in the next 12 to 18 months. So really not worried about it. And honestly, this is a kid who could be ranked higher. It's just one of those classes where wide receivers loaded, slot receivers loaded. Every type of pass catcher outside of tight end is pretty loaded in this class of 2022. I think 17 receivers or slots made the 99 today. So it is a loaded class.
And there was about about 4 or 5 more that we were talking about last night. Like, man, it's going to be tough to leave that guy out, you know,
exactly.
But at some point in time, you got to have somebody other than receivers in the top, in the 99.
He could have been a number 1 guy in a lot of classes, in my opinion.
And we're talking about at his position. And as we're talking, John, I'm gonna put some T. Higgins film on here from his senior year of high school, and people are going to see kind of what we're talking about. I think I've said this, John. I think he's T. Higgins with a little bit more juice at that age. Is because T was a mid 4.5 guy at his pro day, but you see the skin, you see the body type, right? I mean, this is T's senior year. Very, very similar athleticism, very similar body types. Very similar games. And as we all saw, T. Higgins was a pretty good football player at Clemson. So when you look at a guy like Tobias, obviously in this era of more teams playing man, more teams trying to play single high coverages to get more guys in the box, guys like this are a must for a team that's going to really compete for championships. Having that guy that at the end of the day, John, you have to be able to win those one-on-ones, right? You have to be able to so we've talked about the stretch in the field, but I think that he's got the ball skills, he's got the catch radius to be that one-on-one guy, but I think that's where the strength is going to have to come as far as getting stronger, because when you get into college, you're going to be playing guys they're going to be a little more physical with their press, a little more physical at the point of the ball. So I think that's the one part of his game that surprisingly isn't elite yet, that will be once he gets some of that strength and fills out that frame a little bit more.
Yeah, that's a good point. Beating the press is going to have to be his chief concern from an improvement standpoint going forward. And there's one of 2 ways you can do it, right? As a prospect, there's one of 2 ways you can do it. You can do it with your feet, or you can do it with your physicality. And I think he's got the capability to do each. He does play with an edge, and he's got pretty quick feet relative to his size. So he can start diversifying his release points at the line of scrimmage. And obviously an offense coordinator can help him out by maybe working him in the slot, getting him in motion, things like that earlier in his prep career. But there's no doubt that when Notre Dame plays the games that we all expect Notre Dame to play every year, when it gets a little bit colder and the competition level rises, those corners are going to challenge you at the line of scrimmage. But I think this fits with what Notre Dame wants to start to build on the outside. We've seen them get a lot of different body types over the last couple of cycles, especially since I've been working with you. We've seen the slot guys. We've seen the power players. I think of like a Deion Colsey type. And then this is a different type, though. I don't know if they've landed a Tobias Merriweather type over the last few cycles. So I think that's probably the most important thing with this commitment.
Because if you look at some of the bigger guys they had, Miles Boykin was more of a Deion. Ali Muhammad, by the way, thank you for the super chat, Ali. I appreciate that very, very much. But Miles was a big physical guy, winning the one-on-ones, back shoulders. Chase was a physical freak. Chase looked like an NFL player the day arrived on campus, just cut up and defined. He didn't know how to play football at that time, but he physically he was there. Michael Floyd was really advanced size-wise and strength-wise when Notre Dame got him, and all those guys were more of the traditional big receiver. What I think about Tobias, to your point, John, is the reason I don't know if they've gotten a guy like, I think the closest thing that you could say is maybe Equanimous St. Brown, but Equanimous doesn't have the juice that Tobias does. He is more of the modern big guy, in my opinion, that teams need, the Justin Jefferson, the T. Higgins, where it's not just the big power forward. I used to call them power forward receivers, where you're not just winning the one-on-ones, where once you get the ball, you've now done your work, and it's those guys can win in space, that can take the top off of coverage and still do some of the big boy football things they need to do. I don't know if Notre Dame has signed a guy, has really in fact signed. I think the thing you could say is maybe there's some 6'1" guys that have played the way that he plays. Like I think, Kevin Stefferson, I think is probably the closest comp as far as athletically and how they play. That's smooth speed and all that. But Kevin was 6 feet tall. Tobias is, 6'3", 6'4", depending on who you talk to. And a kid who won, as we talked about before you came on, John, won the district championship on the same day in the 100, 200, and 400 meter dash. That's
hard.
That's saying something. Yeah.
I like the 400 meter time. I think that's, growing up running track, that was what we used to call the man's race, right? The 1 and the 2 were cute. The 400 is a man's race. It is a strategic, powerful, enduring type of race. So that long speed really resonates with me. You see it on his highlights with the kick returns, even some of the defensive plays where he's showing off the range. I love the long speed. I think that's an underrated aspect of looking at wide receivers. Think about some of these scenarios where you're split 4 or 5 wide, you're redirecting when the quarterback moves out of the pocket. You're running for a longer period of time maybe than you ever have in certain offenses. So I'm a big fan of long speed, and obviously it's very important after the catch, where for his size, he's about as good as it gets. You don't see bigger guys pulling away like he does. So the 7-on-7 stuff validated more good on good, which is, I think, a crossover, a cancellation of the competition question that is inevitably going to come with a kid outside of the Seattle bubble in the Pacific Northwest. But I would like to see a little bit more good on good. I don't know if he's playing in any of the All-Star games, but that would be must see.
He's in the well, I keep wanting to call it Army, but it's not anymore. It's just the All-American Bowl. He's in that. So
yeah,
and we got to see a little bit of him in the some 7-on-7 this year, but there just wasn't as much because he was running track. There were some of the events that he wanted to get to that he couldn't get to. But yeah, I think that's the next step for him, is being able to go out and show it on that big stage. But let's talk about the Notre Dame class, John. What does this do for the Notre Dame class? How much closer does this get Notre Dame to locking in sort of a top 5 type of class that Notre Dame fans talk so much about?
Right. Currently already top 5 on SI All-American. This class is going to be able to have more room than a lot of others in that conversation. I know Clemson's going to be 20 or less. Alabama's going to be 20 or less. So by default, Notre Dame has a little bit more margin for error in the prospects they're going to pick up to make up ground in the recruiting rankings. But this is addressing one of the needs. This is addressing one of the position groups that we haven't really seen addressed consistently at Notre Dame. We value recruiting rankings in a different way. They're subjective. So there's an SI99 element. There is a premium position element, of course, but there's a team fit element here. There's almost like a perceptional element to our rankings. Are you combating the negative perception of your program, however small that may be? And for Notre Dame, it's clearly difference makers on the outside. And this is, again, about as good of a first step as you could have taken. They've got tight ends locked in. We all know what they're going to do up front, and certainly on defense. I mean, just look at the linebackers and secondary prospects committed. But if they continue to recruit like this out wide, it really changes perception of what Notre Dame is doing talent-wise, which is going to affect the rankings in a very positive way.
You talk about premium positions, right? So Notre Dame now has a top 100 player at receiver. Notre Dame has a top 100 player on the defensive line, Tyson Ford. They have 2 top 100 linebackers, athletic linebackers, and they have a top 100 nickel corner in Devin Moore, who is in the SI99, which I was explaining to people that was a John Garcia decision, not a Brian Driscoll push. That he was there before we talked last night. So yeah, that's the thing that I think has been missing, is Notre Dame's gotten plenty of top 100 recruits over the years, but usually it's offensive linemen, tight ends, some quarterbacks. It hasn't been corner, receiver, those kind of guys. And the consistency of recruiting receiver is a big thing too. Like, I really liked the 2020 class with Jordan Johnson and Xavier Watts, and that's kind of been decimated. But even if you go back and look at it, 2019 was a year where they got a couple project type kids. So it's that consistency. You're now getting Tobias Merriweather a year after you get Lorenzo Styles and Deion Colsey and Jaden Thomas. That is, to me, the important thing. And then, of course, they may not be done yet. You and I may be chatting. You and I may be chatting again this weekend, perhaps. So it's about adding to it is going to be the big thing. Alabama recruits receiver well every year. Clemson recruits top receivers every year. Ohio State does it every year. This is a big step, because now this is 2 years in a row that Notre Dame has landed. Well, really 3 years in a row, although they've had some transfers. 3 years in a row where Notre Dame has landed one of the nation's best pass catchers, and has a chance this weekend to land 2 of them, because CJ Williams is also in the SI99, and he'll make his decision on Sunday.
And
what would a class? Go ahead.
The branding right there, national branding, it always shines through in every class. But going to the Pacific Northwest, going into LA, hello. It's remarkable how consistent that has been, regardless of position, for Notre Dame. And yeah, you start to build a class with Merriweather, CJ Williams, guys like that. Now you're talking about one of the better receiver classes in the country, and that's not something
Right.
we have associated with the Irish
Right.
compared to the schools you mentioned, Clemson, Alabama.
And this will now be
Oklahoma.
2 years in a row that we've had that. And you talk about the national thing. So Tobias is from Washington. Jalen Sneed is, I believe, the next highest ranked Notre Dame kid. He's from South Carolina. Josh Burnham is next. He's from Michigan. So that's the one Midwestern kid. Then Devin Moore's from Naples, Florida. And then Tyson Ford's from St. Louis. And should they land CJ Williams, which again, he's got to make his decision. It's going to be Notre Dame, Texas, USC, or Alabama. He's from LA. So it just kind of goes to show you what Notre Dame is all about. You know, they're going to go across the country and get the best players. And it's not a coincidence, John, that this class is being put together after Notre Dame had a second playoff appearance in 3 years. What you do on the field, and you know this, John, what you do on the field is going to have the biggest – you can have academics, you can have – all those things are great, but you need to have that part. And that, I think, is something that has been a big – you can't blame this one on Marcus Freeman, right? I mean, this is a different deal. I think that's something that's helping Notre Dame close that gap as well, John.
Right, and that's what it's about. I know you're wearing the shirt strategically today, but that's what it's about, man. It's about closing the gap. It's about being able to challenge those teams when you are isolated one-on-one and not allowing them to use that as an advantage. Hey, we can lock up Notre Dame's receivers one-on-one and just attack this quarterback and backfield. And that obviously gives you a ton to work with as a defense. So if you can't do those things at the same rate you used to, now all of a sudden those primetime games, those playoff games start to look a little bit different, a little bit more even. And that's really the next step for the Irish. So again, this is a big win player-wise, ranking-wise, all that stuff. But perceptionally, I think it's just as big.
All right, John, thanks a lot. I'm not going to keep you too much because I want to make sure we save a few minutes just in case we may want to sit down and talk a little bit on Sunday. So John Garcia, Director of Recruiting at SI All-American. If you have not checked out the SI 99 yet, please do so. You can find that at SI All-American's website. John, go ahead and give your Twitter profile and tell people how they can find SI All-American.
Yeah, just John Garcia _JR on Twitter, at SI All-American on all social media. It's all free. We just ranked the 99 best prospects in the country. Took a long time to get here, but we're excited. We feel really good about it. It's about football. It's not about camps and testing and all that stuff. So check it out, SI 99 on the SI All-American website, social media, the whole nine. You'll find it on mine as well. And Brian, thanks for having me on, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, John. Talk to you soon.
Cheers.
So that's John Garcia from SI All-American. We're going to get back to the questions here because a lot of you are excited about this. A lot of good comments. TT, man, I love his demeanor. Solid young man. I agree. The Big Meatloaf. Hey, guys, the Big Meatloaf here. Great name, by the way. If the Irish land CJ Williams this weekend, where do you pivot to finish off the receiver recruiting? We'll talk more about that this weekend. But if Notre Dame is fortunate enough to land CJ Williams this weekend, I think at that point in time, from where Notre Dame is at right now, it's finding that skill set you don't have in the class right now. That shiftier, the explosive slot type of guy, Xavion Bradshaw, Major Everhart. I think that is where Notre Dame's going to want to go to finish off this class. And of course, the nice thing about getting Tobias now, and should they land CJ again, we're just working with the premise, just for argument's sake, that they do. This also allows you to now turn the heat up on the 2023 class, on Cardinal Tate, on Jaylen Brown, and players like that. So that's obviously going to be a big thing too. Because again, this is about doing it every year, not just once or twice. You got to do this every year. Ohio State does it every year. Ohio State will land elite players or receiver one year and do the same thing the next year. So that's absolutely how it needs to be. Chris Irish Young, boom, cheers again to letting it play out. Absolutely. People are fired up. Corey D's fired up. Josh Lake, first-time comment, long-time lurker. This is huge. Absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. So very, very exciting. Dropping dimes, how many stars? We don't really do stars at SI All-American. I do sort of a hybrid star thing. He is a 4.5 star for me, which is a top 50 player with a 5-star upside. So definitely a different type of kid for sure. Adario Jones, you guys made me feel confident from your hints, but it still feels good to hear it officially. Go Irish, absolutely. Brandon scared me for a minute. Thought he was that was a Michigan shirt. Yeah, that would have been bad. That would have been bad. OC Irish fan says, let me say congrats to Coach Reese and Coach Alexander. No question about it. No question about it. Corey D asks, do you guys think Merriweather is a better prospect than CJ Williams? I have him ranked higher than CJ Williams on my ranking, but again, it's 2 top 100 guys. It's of the 2 studs, which one do I have ranked a little higher? Okay, I have Tobias ranked higher. I have Tobias as a top 50 guy. For me, CJ is sort of a 75 to 90 kind of guy. That's the range he fell in for SI All-American as well. Rivals has CJ much higher. Rivals has CJ ranked 29th. So they view him as a little bit better. 24/7 Sports has him in about the same place. So they're both very, very good football players. No question about it. Jim Vlaming, fantastic between his interview with you, Coach D, and now his prowess on the recruiting trail. Tommy Reese is beginning to sway me a bit. But that's how you got to do it, right? You got to do it with results. You can say all the things you want to say, but you got to do it with results. And this is for Coach Reese and Coach Alexander. This is the kind of result that you need to have. There's no question about it. Michael Katrasitz, it's nice to get a big offensive player. Now let's go get CJ Williams. Michael is being very greedy tonight, and I can dig it. I definitely understand that. No question. Brandon says, what an amazing story of how Tobias came to Notre Dame for a visit for his birthday, and now he's part of the Notre Dame family. Big Jim, this is huge. The kid in Deion Colsey and Walker, they remind me of those thin, fast Clemson wideouts. You're not wrong. I think the LSU guys, it can remind you a little bit of that as well. Coach Koch, happy to get him in the program. Still needs to address development and playing time for underclassmen. I get that. We'll have that conversation on another day. That is absolutely sure on him. Ryan Feeks, we did address this. What would you be a player comparison for him? As a high school kid, T. Higgins is a really good comp. We had some T. Higgins film up earlier. I think you guys saw, and that was T. Higgins' senior year, not junior year. So a little bit more maturity there. But I think the T. Higgins comp as a high school player fits. I think what I think Tobias can be as a college player is a lot like what Justin Jefferson was. Really polished route runner, really sharp route runner in a way that you don't often see for a guy that's 6'4". So that would be for me the comps that I would point to. Let me get to some more questions and comments here. David Jones, you did not miss on that. Nice wardrobe change, Brian. I just kind of feel like if I put that on before the show starts, it's a little bit of a giveaway. So I kind of don't want to do that. So we'll see kind of how it looks. But Ty B says he looks like a more polished Equanimeous St. Brown when he was in high school. The reason I don't love the Equanimeous comp, just for me, Ty, I'm good with it. But just for me is I never thought Equanimeous didn't have the speed that Tobias had. He was more of a Miles Boykin type. Now they tested well. Miles ran a 4.42. Equanimeous ran a 4.48. But I'm more talking about like just I think he's a bit more explosive. Look, Equanimeous was not slow. I mean, he had several long, big plays in his career, but I think this kid at the same age has more juice. Equanimeous was a little bit thicker and a little bit longer, too, no question about it. Spartan B88 is Tobias Merriweather greater than Jordan Johnson as a prospect? He was for me as a junior. Again, we got to see Tobias go out as a senior. They both graded out as top 50 caliber kids, but Tobias's junior grade was higher than Jordan's senior grade, to be honest with you. But it's not by a ton. But I think his upside is definitely higher. There's no question about it. Get some more questions here from y'all. Gregory Gilbert, where does this pickup put Notre Dame in the recruiting rankings? I'll have to look at that. I know that this will probably have some movement, but I'm not really concerned about that. I want to wait till Sunday and see how things go on Sunday, and then we can talk more about it. But this is certainly going to give them a jump. You're getting a top 100 player. At least it'll mean more for 247 and for SI All-American than it will for Rivals and ESPN because they don't have them quite as high. D-Rock says, as a former track coach, I notice his long stride overwhelms his opponents. The defenders are taking 2-3 strides compared to his one stride. He engulfs the field excellent. And I think that's a great observation. Mike Hoff does not agree with my shirt choice because Mike Hoff says, I don't know, Brian, he is a gap eraser in my book. I'm not quite there yet because I believe receiving is more about a lot of players, not just one guy, but it's you could certainly make the case on that one. Peter also says gap closed with this one. No question about it. Jeff Perry says we can throw him the deep ball 8 times a game. Yeah, probably wouldn't be a bad idea. Jay Wickie Jr., it's a good observation. It'll be interesting to see how this will impact our future QB recruits. I don't think it hurts when you get Lorenzo Styles and Deion Colsey in one class. You come back the next year, you get Tobias Merriweather. If they're able to land CJ Williams, again, he's got to make his decision. He hasn't announced his decision yet, so we'll have to see where he's going to go. But if you're able to get those, that's 2 more top 100 receivers. Hey, Dante Moore, if you're Notre Dame, hey, Dante Moore, look what we're doing. You already got these guys, plus we get you, we can bring Cardinal Tate with you. We're doing some special things. That's the kind of thing that they need to do to really make this one happen. There's no question about it. Pierre, the great observation with him stretching the field and all the underneath weapons we have. Can't wait. Agree completely. Michael says, Brian, you and I have known each other for many years, but I got to tell you that I truly enjoy hearing you gush about talented individuals. Yeah, I mean, look, I love talented kids. I love kids that are really good. I love watching film with kids that are really good football players. And Tobias is a really, really good football player. John Climax says, I was a little late. How was he at the line when being jammed? I want to see that immediate separation, not the Ben Skoranek stuff. So in high school, he's very good at it. He's got very fast hands. There's some technique things as a receivers coach I'd want to clean up, as I would with all kids. But he's got really fast feet and really fast hands. That's going to help him a ton. Plus, he can accelerate quickly. That's going to help him at the line. Now, the next step is just adding some of that strength and those type of things. Mike Gardner also talks about the quarterback and says, this is how you get quarterback recruits to take notice. Absolutely. Absolutely. Big Jim says he's like a cross between T. Higgins and Justin Ross with Randy Moss calves and Chase Claypool's Instagram presence. Very well done, Big Jim. Very, very, very well done. Appreciate that. Let's see here. Mike Gardner also says this guy, Colsey and Styles in the slot in a couple years, nasty. And you'll still have Xavier Watts then too. And hopefully you'll have a couple other guys to add with that as well. Jeff Perry with the question, do you think this hurts us with Williams? No, I don't. I don't. Most receivers, look, if you look at where CJ Williams is looking, he's looking at Texas, he's looking at USC, he's looking at Alabama, he's looking at Oregon, I believe. All those schools are going to have top receivers. He's not looking somewhere for an easy path. You don't go to Mater Dei if you're looking for an easy path. CJ's a competitor. And look, the other thing too is him and Tobias are not being recruited to play the same position. Tobias is more of an outside guy. CJ is an outside guy that can play inside. They can complement each other very well. So I don't think it's going to hurt them at all. And we'll have more about this on Sunday, but it's not going to hurt them at all. The Rock Truth and Brian's tea leaves. I try, do my best. Mike Huff says, I think he reaches the top 4 in the country of the season. I believe that. I think it's possible, Mike. I think he's going to really blow up as a senior. I really do. I really do. John Climax says, Gregory and Tommy, thanks. I was super annoyed watching Ben and Javon more than once get jammed up. That was a technique. Well, for Javon, it was more of a technique thing, but neither of them are super quick guys. That's, again, why I talk about different skill sets. Some guys, Chase Claypool was big and strong enough to just kind of bully you off the line, but not everybody's that way. So, I think that having some foot quickness and those kind of things is really going to be important for this. Brandon with a great question. Brian, how would you compare Tobias and Darius Clemens? From the moment I watched both of their tape, I love Tobias by a mile and immediately wanted him into class. How do you compare the two? Better prospect. I have Tobias ranked higher. I had him ranked higher in my personal rankings for Notre Dame. I had him ranked higher in the receiver rankings I did for SI All-American. And I like Darius Clemens. I think Darius Clemens is a really good football player. Darius is a lot thicker. He's about 6'3", about 210, a lot thicker. He's more of a Miles Boykin type, big physical kid, vertical player, not a ton after the catch, projecting to the next level, but a really good player. I mean, he's more of a pure boundary, Darius is. He would have been a big pickup for Notre Dame too, but Tobias is the better prospect, and he's the more explosive prospect in my opinion. Jeff Perry, thanks, guys. I'm even more happy. You're welcome. John Klimek with the absolutely right, buddy. In regards to CJ Williams, let it play out. Joseph Salvatore says, Brian, I know this is a long way away, but does Tobias project as the type of player who would play as a freshman even under Dell and BK? Yes, I think he is. I'll be saying the same thing. I was pushing for Jordan Johnson and Xavier Watts to play, and I grade Tobias out better than both of them. So you can better believe I'll be pushing for Tobias to be playing as a freshman. Irishman 7114, can we give Brian the assist for having Coach Reese on the show? I didn't. If you're talking about this recruitment, I had nothing to do with that, but I appreciate you. I'm glad that you enjoyed that very, very much. Let's see here. Irishman 7114 asks, if CJ Williams commits on the 8th, how many more scholarships will Notre Dame have for 2022? So Tobias gives them 20. CJ would give them 21. I think 4 to 5 is the number, the ideal. I think they could get up to 27, which would be 6. I think 4 to 5. I think you want to get one more DB. You want to get at least one more defensive lineman. You get one more offensive lineman. And I think they'd like to get one more receiver. Then after that gets you to 25. After that, you hope to get a second defensive lineman. They'd like to have 2 more defensive linemen. You need at least one. That could get you to 26. And then it's determining, do you want to get to 27, which would be tough, but they can make it work. Then do you take a second back? Do you take Quinshawn Junkins? I think that's the decision to make. That's where they would be. I think they can get up to 27. So after CJ, if CJ picks Notre Dame, I think you could get 6 more. I'd probably lean more towards 4 more because I don't think they're necessary. To get to 27, you'd have to literally land every guy that's left on the board, and I just don't know if that's going to happen. They got a shot, but I don't know if that's necessarily going to happen. Liam Gaming with the reminder to hit the like button. I appreciate that very, very much. Let's get to some more questions here. Hit the like button before you hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell. No question about it. Let's see here. Some more questions. Coach Koch, really glad to have him in the program. I don't know that it will fix the lack of development and playing time for underclassmen. I get all that, right? We're not going to know about that. Let's see how he does with Lorenzo and Deion Colgie this year. Let's see how that plays out, But for now, yeah, that's a concern. But some kids are just too good not to play, and I think the bias falls into that category. Brian Meadows regarding to the twisted. I'm watching the twisted screen. I'm watching this on my 55-inch TV, but I'm laying on the couch to level it out. That's good planning. It's very, very good planning, my man. Very good planning. Notre Dame dude, 88, huge pickup. Absolutely love this class. Absolutely agree. Brandon Compton, how do you think he compares to Maurice Stovall? I don't think he compares a lot to Mo, to be honest with you. I think the couple things, obviously tall. I think Mo is a little taller. I think that the long strides, I think compares to Mo. Obviously, that's something that compares to Mo. But Mo was more of a vertical player. He was more of a Miles Boykin type, where I think Tobias is a little bit more fluid, a little bit more smooth, a little better feet, a little bit more explosive. So I don't think their games there's a couple physical things that are similar, but I don't think that their games are all that similar, to be honest with you. See, OC Irish fan asks, Coach, I understand the Notre Dame coaches can't comment on a recruit until after they actually sign him. Can they influence any strength conditioning prior to him coming on campus? So yes, once a kid officially signs, I'm pretty sure you can give them the workout programs. So that's definitely something that they're able to do. No question. Kenny says Tobias is really skinny. He is. He's not nearly as skinny as Amorian Walker, but yes, he's on the thin side. But he's a legit 180 pounds. Roy Boy, Irish, we killing it, baby. Yes, it's a good week. There's no question. Kenny Moore says, I think he will be thick, but you can tell he is a skinny kid right now. Yeah, he's going to fill out. He's going to fill out. Sean Higgins says, what do the days leading up to commitment look like from a coaching perspective for a kid who may be a lean like Williams? How do you balance persistence while giving him space to make a decision? So just so you know, CJ's already made his decision. Tobias, when he announced he was making his commitment, he had already made that decision. So these are not guys that are going into it with not sure where they're going. These are instances where they made hey, I'm going to announce because I've made my decision. I think what you do for the coaches is if you know he's coming to you, then what you do is you make sure that you stay on him. Hey, look, we love you. Anything we need, whatever, while not hammering him, but you stay on him. Make sure that He knows you still love him, because the schools that know they're not getting him or don't think they're going to get him, they're going to try to do whatever they can to make him not just commit, or to at least stay open, or maybe commit to taking visits. So, yeah, I think, I mean, that's basically how it works out, to be honest with you. Let me get to some more questions here. Michael Johnson says, could this guy bring more top 100 players with him? Yeah, I mean, I think he's that kind of guy. I think, the West Coast guy, really talented player. The only really way he's going to do it a ton, honestly, Michael, is if he comes and plays well, which I think he can. But look, the more you add top-ranked kids, again, this is another top 100 player, according to 247. This is another top 100 player in SI 99. This is a guy that is going to be an impact player. And I think if you're a 2023 quarterback, he's not the end all be all, like, hey, I'm definitely going to Notre Dame now because they got Tobias Merriweather. But I think it's just another feather in Notre Dame's cap when you just kind of look at what they're building. And it's more about the overall big picture thing, in my opinion. Christopher Galloway says, time for the game-changing quarterback. I think they got a guy like that on campus already. And, that's why Dante Moore is so important for the 2023 class, Christopher. I mean, you need to land those quarterbacks. If Tyler Buchner pans out, he's not going to be here forever. You need to find the next guy. So even if Tyler Buchner's as good as advertised, I think the next one is you've got to get Dante Moore. You've got to get him in that next class. There's no question about it. Omar Austin asks, what are Vince and Brian over under for years it takes for Notre Dame to have a top class and not come down to the wire or make a comeback for a class on both? I don't even know. I don't know if they'll have a top class. I don't know if it's possible for Notre Dame to finish number one, except for SI 99, just because of the way that the recruiting services work. It's a points-driven system. SEC teams usually sign a lot more. The players from the South tend to be a lot more of them ranked. I think sometimes more than they should. So I don't know if it's possibly number one. It could be for SI All-American but it's going to be about, like what we talked about, what John explained, premium positions, SI 99 guys, filling holes, program needs. For Notre Dame to be number one, I think they have to have an elite quarterback as part of an overall great class. Like, let's just say hypothetically that Notre Dame would have offered and landed Cade Klubnik, who SI 99 SI All-American has as like the number 4 player in the country, or Sam Horn, who I like a lot from Georgia, who's the number 40 player in the country. Not a knock on Steve Angeli. I'm just making a point like that from a ranking standpoint. That would have boosted that up because there is no more premium position than quarterback. Tyler Miles, I'm loving the recruiting effort this year. Thanks for the great job on covering it all, Brian and Vince. Very much appreciated. You're welcome. Absolutely. Sid Irish, I'm going to disagree with this. Notre Dame will fall to 8-9 before it's done. Bama, Clemson, Georgia, LSU haven't even started yet. That's a couple things about that aren't accurate. Number one, those teams have started already. Clemson has a lot of players in their class already. It's going to be a small class, as John talked about. Alabama's also, this is going to be a year where Alabama's also going to have a bit of a lower class. LSU has 16 kids committed already. So they're not exactly a small class. Georgia has 14 kids committed. They're not going to add 12, 13 more kids. And they've already lost a couple recruits that have decommitted. So I'm going to disagree with you on that. I don't think they're going to fall to 8-9 on SI 99. I don't give a crap what Rivals and 247 Sports rank them, because I think it's a flawed system. It's not. I mean, it is what it is. The points-driven system is not the way to go, in my opinion. It's just not. But Alabama is not going to have a 25-man class this year, in my opinion. So that's where we're at. Let me see here. Jack Maluli, kind of answer this again. We'll reiterate for people who maybe missed it. How many scholarships does Notre Dame have for the 2022 cycle? This commit puts Notre Dame at 20. Still Williams, Rice, Nwankpa, Lucas, Schrouth on the board. What if Notre Dame somehow closes strong within this group? I think they can get to 7 more. It'll be tough to get that many, but I think 5 is kind of the sweet spot. for that. I think getting to 25 is the goal. And then beyond that, it's like if you can get Anthony Lucas late, you add him. If you can get Xavier Nwankpa late, you add him. That's kind of where they are. And as Michael says, this is a great point, Michael. Great players want to play with other great players. More often than not, that's absolutely true. Absolutely true. I'm getting towards the end of some of these questions. Let's get down here. Chris Ayers, that's trying to speak to my heart. Don't forget about Bradshaw. Notre Dame really needs him. I know most people don't think so, but he is a must in at least my limited opinion. I do not disagree with you at all. Yeah, Sid, I'm not even going to address the look. I don't care what I don't. Yeah, if Notre Dame, I'm not going to address it. Jim Vlaming, coach, after the Tobias commitment, do we have any silent commits right now? Yes, they do. Eric 1863, Brian, I think you mentioned the Osbury brothers from Louisiana. Is there interest there, or are they plan B options? Well, the one brother, Jaden, is a 2023 kid, so he's younger. He's not in the senior class. They're recruiting him. They want him. Austin Osbury is the one who's in the current 2022 class. Right now, I don't see them making a move on him. I think they like him, but I think right now they're putting all their chips in the Xavier Nwankpa basket, and I think that's where their focus is right now, in my opinion. Fred Benson, speaking of Maurice Stovall, he was on the cover of the 930-02 SI. That was against Michigan State. I remember that catch. He's kind of like doing this in the back corner of the end zone after Notre Dame beat Sparty. Yep, there it is. He and Brian Driscoll are my 1,600 plus Facebook friends. Pat Dillingham threw the pass that beat Michigan State in 2002. I didn't remember that Pat Dillingham was the one who threw that pass. That's a nice little tidbit. I did not realize that. We knew what you meant, Fred. We knew what you meant. It's all good. David Lynch says, hey, Brian, I love the shirt. Hey, you know what, David? If you love it, you can have one. Just hit the Notre Dame shop store down below. We have gap closer shirts for sale. We have them in this white color. We have them in gray. We have them in navy blue. So, yep, you can have one, buddy. You can. I'm just not being selfish. These aren't just for me. You all can have them too. RP asks, Coach, if this ends up being CJ, Tobias, Amorion, and Bradshaw, does it make for our best wide receiver class ever? I can't speak to ever. Loose Emoji could have spoke to ever. I can't. It would certainly be, in my opinion, the best receiving class of the Brian Kelly era. And there have been some good ones. Last year's receiver class was really good. The 2016 receiver class with Chase Claypool, Javon McKinley, Kevin Stefferson was really good. The 2015 class had Miles Boykin, Equinemi St. Brown, CJ Sanders, Jalen Guyton. Jalen Guyton's in the NFL right now. That one was pretty good. 2013 ended up being better than we thought with Will Fuller, but no one thought it was going to be a great class at the time. So there have been some really good receiver classes that Notre Dame has landed. I think if they land the group that you're talking about, RP, with CJ, Tobias, and Xavier Bradshaw, or even if you threw in Major Everhart, I think it would be in the conversation. I would probably rank it there, but I'd have to kind of compare the grades and of where they had those guys. But it's definitely in the conversation. No question about it. No question about it. Kyle Dolan asks, sorry if I missed it. Any news or movement with Canute? Yeah, I mean, there's not going to be daily news and movement. It's like he came, he visited. It went really well. Notre Dame's going to be in it, and I think right now they're in his top 3. That's that's where I think that they are with him right now. Christopher Galloway, I live in Anderson, County, South Carolina. The Clemson fans are going nuts because they are not getting the kids that they have the past few years. It's been kind of weird. They're doing really well in the secondary, but there's been some positions where they're getting beat on kids, and it's been strange. It really has. I'm curious about that. And last couple questions here. DJ Wilson, why all the concern about with rankings? Can they play at a high level? I agree. Pasquale, thoughts on Keon Keeley rise in the rankings? I'm not sure what rise you're referring to, Pasquale. I don't pay a ton of attention to that. I've said since Keon committed that he's a top 100 recruit. I actually said I like his upside even higher than Brennan Vernon's. Keon is a stud, and he's not even close to tapping his full potential. So If somebody else jumped him up, I don't know if he's like in the top 100 now or something, that would be smart because Keon is a baller. There's no question about it. So, and Sid Irish said that as well. So I'm going to let you have a positive comment here, Sid, about this one. So that's going to be it for the breakdown of the Tobias Merriweather commitment. This obviously was a big one for Notre Dame. We'll talk more about what's next at receiver recruiting on the website, but we're also going to talk more about that on Sunday. We will talk on Sunday about, we'll cover CJ Williams' decision, whatever his decision is. We'll talk about what that means. If they get him, what that means. If they don't get him, what that means, and sort of what's next for Notre Dame. But this is a big pickup, huge pickup. Number 46 player in the country, according to SI All-American, which came out today. If you want to talk more about it, come join me at the boards. Sign up for irishbreakdown.com's premium boards. We can talk about this all night long, what this means, what's next, and there's some things that we can kind of get into there. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. If you're listening via podcast, please give us a 5-star review. And, of course, check out irishbreakdown.com. You check the description bar below. We have our merch stores down there. You have the discount code to get 10% off Built Bars, which is the best protein bar around, in my opinion. Great taste and good for you. I will probably never buy another candy bar the rest of my life because of those. So you can check all that out. But again, come join us at irishbreakdown.com and at the boards.irishbreakdown.com, and we'll continue this conversation. So for Vince, who is now gone, and Brian, we will be back with you all again tomorrow at 1 o'clock to talk about Notre Dame's next couple teams on the schedule. We'll definitely talk about Wisconsin and Cincinnati. May get a little bit into the discussion of Virginia Tech. We'll just kind of have to see how much it goes. And then, of course, on Friday, we'll have our mailbag. So everybody have a great rest of your night, and we'll talk to you again very, very soon.